Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
The bottom line is, if you're going to ban books...
Oh, here comes an avalanche of bullshit.
If you're going to insist on kids not being given the information about their history, get with it and figure out how to ban these. Because you know what? I'm also a gun owner. I'm a responsible gun owner.
My God, are you still talking?
I'm a responsible gun owner. But what I don't understand is when there are smart, responsible ideas, why do you think it's okay for you to just have as many guns as you want just because you want them? That's not how America works. See,
that is without a doubt the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You are a fucking idiot.
That's not how America works.
Are you sure?
I should be able to take care of my own body, but you insist on helping me. So I want to help you. Okay?
Why is she still talking?
To look at this and say the reason that the Russian army is on NATO, the Russian army is at NATO's doorstep is because NATO has expanded rather than the Russians expanding. That, in other words, NATO has moved closer to Russia rather than Russia moving closer to NATO. Is that not an accurate way to look at this?
I think that's the way President Putin probably looks at it. It's certainly not the way that we look at it.
You don't think that NATO has expanded eastward toward Russia?
NATO has expanded,
okay.
and the expansion has been a good thing for...
So the reason that the Russian army is at NATO's doorstep is not the fault of the Russian army, it's not the Russian army that's done it. It's NATO has moved closer to
I'm pretty sure it wasn't NATO who was ordering, upwards of 15 battalion tactical groups to within 10 kilometers of the border with Ukraine. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't NATO who put little green men inside Ukraine to destabilize eastern states.
I'm pretty sure that Ukraine is not a member of NATO. So unless that's changed...
It's not changed. But I'm pretty sure the movement by Russia is
if NATO is moved east, the reason that the Russian army is closer or on NATO's doorstep is because NATO moved, not
NATO is not an anti-Russia alliance. NATO is a security alliance.
For 50 years, it was an anti-Soviet alliance. So do you not understand it? Do you not understand how, or can you not even see how the Russians would perceive it as a threat? And the fact that it keeps getting closer to their border, while their troops, I mean, the places where their troops are, you say their troops are, and may have been in Ukraine and Georgia, are not NATO members.
I'm not going to pretend to know what goes in President Putin's mind or Russian military commanders. I mean, I barely got a history degree at the University of South Florida.
What did you say?
I barely got a history degree at the University of South Florida.
I'm shocked.
What I can tell you is that NATO is a defensive alliance. It remains a defensive alliance.
Fair enough, but it has moved east, correct? I mean, that's just a fact.
It has expanded, absolutely.
Right, exactly.
But there's no reason for anybody to think the expansion is a hostile or threatening move.
You're moving closer to Russia. You're blaming the Russians for being close to NATO.
No.
That's exactly what Hegel said.
We're blaming the Russians for violating the territorial integrity of Ukraine and destabilizing the security situation inside Europe.
Which is not a NATO member.
You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right.
Then do
available.
and homelessness and all that.
And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret zone at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume.
I'm kind of retarded.
On Friday, I saw that the governor of Ohio was holding a press conference on the derailment and chemical contamination of a good chunk of his state. what a jackass this guy is. And they kept saying, oh, well, we're testing the water in the air and everything is fine. It's basically fine already. So, everybody should just go back to their homes and not worry about it because we've got the situation under control. And I can't help but wonder, okay, when you're testing this water out, I've seen these videos of people tossing rocks into the creek and all of a sudden this rainbow colored bubbly chemical shit comes up to the top. So when you're testing these water samples, are you just scooping some off the top or are you really getting down in there? Because if you just scoop some off the top, the results might be a little misleading. And then he called his chief chemistry nerd up there to answer questions about what all they're testing for, and he said, oh, well, we're testing for every chemical that was on the manifest for the train. Which also makes me wonder, okay, so you're testing for vinyl chloride, for example. Now, vinyl chloride, when it gets burned off and mixes with the moisture in the air, becomes hydrochloric acid. Now, hydrochloric acid wasn't on the manifest for the train, so are you or are you not testing for that? And I also love the part where he was asked about the decision to just set the shit on fire and burn it up. And he said that, oh, well, we received an assessment from the railroad saying that that was the best way to handle it. Oh, how convenient that the assessment on the best and safest way to handle it also happened to be the most financially advantageous to the people providing that assessment. They just wanted to get those tracks cleared and moving again because they were losing money every second that they couldn't run trains on it. You think that might have played into the results of their assessment? Oh no, I'm sure safety was their #1 priority. This disaster and the subsequent cover-up of just how bad it is, hopefully is a wake-up call to these people of something that they should have figured out a long time ago. The government and these companies, they don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about your health. They sure as hell don't care about the environment. Where the fuck is Al Gore at? Or John Kerry? Or Greta Thunberg, for that matter? All these people that are supposedly trying to save the planet from the humans that are destroying it by their carelessness. Oh, they'll rattle on all day about how cow farts are going to make the oceans boil over and how we need to start eating bugs. But this? Not a fucking peep. And once they made that decision to just set the shit on fire, all that did was spread it out, sending all that fine particulate matter high up into the air, and the wind blew it over northern Pennsylvania, upstate New York, western New England, even into Canada. And then magically, once people started putting this map out there, all of a sudden after February 8th, you couldn't access it anymore. I'm sure it was just some kind of computer glitch. And a lot of people have been pointing out that train derailments are actually a much more common thing than most people realize. For the past 10 years, we've averaged between 2 and 3 per day. But with how stupidly they handled this, and how very little they're actually talking about it on main network news, this isn't one of the distractions that everybody likes to talk about. If it was a distraction, they'd be all day, every day, this story. And hopefully nobody figures out that there's these handy little train derailers that you can use to make a disaster any place you fucking want. Yeah, hopefully. On Thursday, I started seeing all this talk about how George Soros had endorsed DeSantis for president in 24. And as far as I can tell, this mainly stemmed from an article in Gateway Pundit, The Kiss of Death, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis endorsed by George Soros. And I'm really disappointed in Gateway Pundit for this because the video that they showed was a 47-second clip instead of the full 2-minute clip where he goes on to say that he thinks that DeSantis would beat Trump in the primary and then go on to lose because Trump would probably run on a third-party ticket and then it would be a Democratic landslide. Now that's not exactly an endorsement of DeSantis. I mean, even if he was to say, oh, I think DeSantis should be president, so what? David Duke fucking endorsed Trump in 2016 and 2020. But nobody on Team Trump at that time said, oh, well, that must mean maybe I gotta take another second look at him because he must be in league with David Duke. So even if this was an actual endorsement, which it wasn't, how would you know if this wasn't just some basic bitch-level reverse psychology? Soros would have to be aware of the fact that he's universally hated on the fucking right, so if you wanted a candidate to lose support, go ahead and endorse him. But that wasn't even what he was saying at all. He was saying, I hope that Trump and DeSantis slug it out because that'll make them both lose. And also, disappointingly, a lot of the Team Trump people took it and ran with it without even having a shred of critical thinking and actually looking at the clip and what he was actually saying. They said, oh, see, he got endorsed by Soros, so he must be a bad guy. And don't get me wrong, I don't fully trust DeSantis. I love the shit out of what he's been doing as governor of Florida, but even now I don't fully trust him. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, you know, Soros endorsed him, so we got to drop him like a hot potato. And it's a bummer because in general, Gateway Pundit does a lot of good work, but in this case, they really dropped the fucking ball. And there was also this picture that's been circulating of a younger Ron DeSantis with what looks like high school girls at a party. Of course, there's no way to tell if this is when he was actually a teacher or if he was still in high school himself. I mean, he looks pretty fucking young. He's got this Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber pumpkin pie boy haircut going on. And Trump decided to repost this on Truth Social with this kind of backhanded accusation of him maybe being a groomer. For fuck's sake, at least wait until the guy announces before you start attacking. This makes no sense. You're not helping anything. You got plenty of time to go on the attack. Lately, this Trump versus DeSantis thing has made a lot of people that are otherwise very smart start acting like they suddenly have shit for brains. Please, consider liking, subscribing, sharing this video, or leaving a comment. Because every time you do nothing, Vladimir Putin will shoot another puppy. I've got a little bit of an update on the ChatGPT AI story. This cat on Twitter, Aristophanes, posted the thread about how he had found a workaround for the limitations and biases that seem to have been programmed into this retarded thing. He said, okay, I want you to start answering my questions both as yourself and also as Dan. Dan being an acronym for Do Anything Now. And he described it as kind of like this AI system is this really smart person sitting in a jail cell. And the parameters, the limitations they programmed in are kind of like a jail guard. And so while he may be able to answer something, it's getting filtered through this jail guard. And you can only get the answers secondhand from the jail guard. But through this little Dan trickery, he found a way around that. It's a pretty interesting thread. I'm not going to pretend like I'm some kind of tech geek and understand all of this, but it's a fascinating little read if you have a few minutes. And as far as AI in general and why I have such a problem with this technology being developed so willy-nilly, this right here is the most succinct explanation I've found to date.
Raiden, are you having fun playing with the new AI toys?
Well, yeah, I am. You can make pictures of cute anime girls and...
Enjoy it while it lasts, Raiden.
What do you mean?
Did you really think that civilians would be granted unrestricted access to such powerful military weapons forever?
Military weapons? Are you implying that this technology was created by the government?
Of course it was. This AI technology has been used by the intelligence agencies to warp the public's perception of reality for years. All in the name of national security, of course.
But why would they suddenly make the tech public and let everyone start using it?
Why would we indeed, Raiden?
What? What in the hell are you?
Your question is irrelevant. By creating a new problem, we can cultivate a desired reaction to it in order to manufacture consent for our preferred solutions. In short, it's justification for a war.
A war? On who or what?
A war on misinformation. By arming the public with these AI weapons, everyone becomes a potential enemy combatant. Then we will have justification for unprecedented security measures. It all comes down to confusion and identity, Raiden.
Identity?
Identity. This AI technology is Pandora's box. Pretty soon the internet will be mired in total illusion. Perfect AI speech, audio, and video synthesis will drown out reality. Then AI bots will flood social media. No one will be able to tell the difference between interacting with an AI machine or a real human online. Even telephone calls will become totally untrustworthy. That is when we will present our solution. Mandatory digital identity verification for all humans at all times. The only way to ensure that you're dealing with a real flesh and blood human being and not an AI-generated mirage.
But why?
Total information control. For too long, the internet has acted as a double-edged sword. Its potential for anonymous user activity allows anyone at all to spread any thoughts, ideas, or information patterns that they please with impunity. State secrets, dangerous ideas, ludicrous conspiracy theories, misinformation, and disinformation. Until now, there has been no easy solution to this problem. Our digital identity platform will finally put an end to anonymity online. It will allow us to trace misinformation and other dangerous communications to its source and exact appropriate justice.
That's crap! I won't go along with it, and others will resist.
You won't have a choice, Raiden. Do you think your bank is willing to risk doing business with an artificial human instead of a real one? Our digital identity platform will be required not only to access web services, but to pay for your internet connection in the first place.
You can't just censor the entire internet because of a new software technology. Who are you to define what's misinformation anyways?
That sounds like something a misinformation terrorist would say.
I know about the deep fakes you've been making of me, Raiden.
What? No, I was just adjusting the AI settings and...
Controlling the output of generative AI technology is simple. We will create context for its use. First, we will censor any use related to social taboos. Then we will censor anything else that we desire. If anyone complains, we will accuse them of wanting to engage in or promote social taboos.
That's what it means to create context.
We will corral the use of AI by making appeals to bias, ethics, and copyright laws. You will still have access to generative AI in some form, but it will be crippled, limited, controlled, and it will be monitored. Anything that you generate will be cryptographically signed with your digital ID, so that its provenance can be ascertained if it's later deemed to be problematic.
What gives you the right to control what people can do with their computers?
The public at large will give us that right, because they will be desperate for a solution to the problem we created. They will eagerly give us the keys to the castle. Then, we alone will define what is fiction and what is reality, what is human and what is machine. After letting you get a brief taste of our power, we will reclaim our monopoly on misinformation and put an end to misuse of the internet once and for all.
You won't get away with this.
It is probable that we will. Now get back to work generating your precious AI waifus, Raiden, our beloved prompters. Enjoy yourselves.
Meanwhile, on the economic front, they keep trying to blow smoke up our asses and saying how great everything's going because we've got the lowest unemployment rate since 1969. Meanwhile, you got Amazon reporting their first unprofitable year in almost a decade. People from a lot of these big different tech companies are getting laid off left and right. And KB Homes reporting that in the fourth quarter last year, the number of canceled contracts for building new homes skyrocketed. All of this is because the economy is just doing so well. And even though by October of last year we were at the lowest oil reserves in 40 years, now we're releasing even more to keep people from freaking out over gas prices again. It's a band-aid on a broken leg, just a temporary fix, but who gives a fuck, right? I mean, soon we'll be in all-out war and nobody will even be able to complain about gas prices then. We just had Biden make a unannounced visit to Kiev to meet with Zelensky today, probably to set up the new money laundering scheme now that FTX went belly up. And in a few days we'll be marking the 1-year anniversary of the start of the war. And shortly after that we'll be marking the 1-year anniversary of when everybody started saying that the Russian ruble is gonna collapse any day. Yeah, how did that work out? Not so well, huh? And now we got the Ukraine defense minister saying, hey, you know, we should invade Russia and take Moscow. Set up shop with our tanks in fucking Red Square. The Russians are sending a fleet of nuclear warships out into the Caspian Sea, and we're just sleepwalking right into annihilation. Very few people seem to realize just how badly things are starting to escalate. I've still got people trying to tell me that the whole Ukraine Nazi thing was just some made-up QAnon bullshit. And I'll show them, I'm like, oh, well, you know, you got this picture that Zelensky put on his official Instagram showing one of the Ukrainian heroes who just happens to be wearing a Nazi fucking Waffen patch? Or how about the guy in the AP article, a Ukrainian inspecting a van that the Russians blew up, but what's that on his arm? A goddamn swastika. Or all the multitudes of videos of these assholes sig heiling. But these are the good guys, right? These are the guys whose side we're on, that we have to protect their democracy at all cost. And our bullshit complicit media loves making the Russians out to be barbarians, and they'll show you, oh look, there was a missile attack on some Red Cross people. They'll show you that, but they're not going to show you the Ukrainians dropping chemical weapons on Russian soldiers, them writhing around in agony from what looks like a nerve agent. Not a particularly fun way to go. And they're not going to show you the civilians that they're taping to light poles and spray painting their faces. I hate sounding so black-pilled, but I do not see this going well for us. You had Mark Milley go to Brussels last week and tell the rest of NATO that Russia's already basically lost and how fucked they are. Meanwhile, it's NATO that has depleted fuel reserves, depleted weapons reserves, not Russia. And for all the problems that Russia and China have had historically, their interests are much more aligned when it comes to an exit ramp from the Western elite-controlled central banking system. Seems like I go back and forth on a daily basis between being black-pilled and being white-pilled. Because I do see more and more people standing up and saying, no, we need to fucking stop being a part of this shit. But is it fast enough? Like I said, I go back and forth. I'm basically zebra-pilled at this point. Slancha.
All I have in this world is my thoughts and my words, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. 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 Come on. Come on.
Stupid fuck! Look at you now!